Hi guys, welcome to today's video where I'm going to teach you the basics of ComfyUI and how to operate it. We'll try and get you started with your first workflow today. So first let's open up our browser. Let's open up a browser and on Google let's just search for ComfyUI. This is how we download ComfyUI. There are multiple ways to download ComfyUI. This is the way you can download it locally on your machine. If you have a good GPU, you can just run it locally on your machine and we'll use GitHub to download ComfyUI for you. And you can just follow all these steps to download it on your Windows machine or your Mac. You of course need an NVIDIA processor for this. Another way is to run it on the cloud. Now running it on the cloud might cost money and it might be expensive, but if you don't have a good enough GPU, that's the only alternative you have. So there is a website called Comfy Workflows. I usually use this website. I initially used to use it. Now I have a NVIDIA 4090 processor, so I run it locally on my machine. But if you want to run it on the cloud, there's something called ComfyUI Cloud here, and you can get a subscription. I think it's $10 a month for hobbyists, which is not bad, and you can like run up to like 1,000 workflows on this, so that's good. Another thing that I think this tutorial might be helpful for is I usually use something called Pinocchio, and I find it much easier to run all my AI applications on this. So we can go to this website called pinocchio.tutor. Right. You can go ahead and download the software on your machine to run it locally. Now the advantage of using Pinocchio is that you can run all these different applications that come out every single day on your machine locally, and it downloads everything for you automatically. So let's open up Pinocchio on my machine. Yeah, so this is what Pinocchio looks like. You can go to Discover. See, they launch new models every single day. There's OpenUI, OpenVoice, and you can use all these applications locally on your machine to get all your AI results and outputs. So I find this quite convenient. So these are all the models I have loaded on my machine. I've even loaded ComfyUI. So if you want to download ComfyUI, you can just go to Discover, search for ComfyUI, and download the app for yourself. So since I already have it downloaded, I can go to ComfyUI. Of course, initially it will start downloading all the files for you, and then you can automatically update all these files as well. So I can start Comfy directly from here. Another thing is you can't just directly start using Comfy. If you're not using Pinocchio, you might need some plugins on Comfy called Comfy plugins. Let's say Comfy Manager. So you might need Comfy Manager which is a very important plugin to start downloading all different models. So there are different kind of models in ComfyUI, right? There's Stable Diffusion model 1.5, there's Stable Diffusion XL, there's Stable Diffusion version 2. So you can download all these different models and custom models that other people generate through this manager. Now, of course, this comes inbuilt within Pinocchio, which is why it is convenient. But in case you are running it locally and you're downloading Comfy using GitHub, you need to download ComfyUI Manager as a plugin as well. Another thing you might need to do is download models. The most common website for downloading models is called Hugging Face. So you can download all models from here. So if you want to download, let's say Stable Diffusion. The most common model and the base model is Stable Diffusion version 1.5. So you can go here and you can download it directly, use this model. You can go to Files and Versions and you can download the entire model from here itself. Another thing you can do is there's a website called Civit AI. Now, Civit AI usually hosts a lot of user-generated content models, right? So you can make your own models that you've trained and upload it on Civit AI, and you can start using them. So Civit AI is a good website for downloading your own custom models or any model you like. So we can use Civit AI for that. Now let's go back into Pinocchio and we can start running ComfyUI. So we click on start and starts. It takes some time to start up ComfyUI, but it's going to start it up for us over here. Okay, started. So that depends on the time of your PC, but it started for us here. You can either run it within the app itself, or you can open it in your browser. Let's load the default workflow. This is the workflow that you'll see initially when you first start ComfyUI. I know you see all these wires and these blocks, so and it might look like you're diffusing a bomb, but don't get intimidated. We'll run through this entire process. Now, usually what you see, these blocks are usually like Lego blocks. Okay, you can think of them as Lego blocks that you can assemble uh, with other blocks to make something more complex, right? On the left side, you'll see these things which are inputs, these wires entering these nodes. So within each block, there are something called parameters, and all these parameters are connected to each other, and these blocks are connected to each other with something called nodes, right? And usually there is an input node coming in from the left, and all the nodes coming out from the right are called output nodes. Now, initially in the first, this is the most basic workflow you'll see. There's something called load checkpoint. This is to load the model we have on the machine, right? This is to load the stable diffusion model. So out here there are all these different kind of models. You can download additional models by clicking on manager, and there is an option called install models in manager itself. So you can find models here. There are two kinds of models. There's a safe tensors model and there is a checkpoint model, right? Now the difference is safe tensors, as the name suggests, is much safer to download, but checkpoint models might contain malicious code. So we'll usually go for the safe tensors model. Let's click on label diffusion. Oh, yeah, so these are all the stable diffusion checkpoints you can find here. I already have these models installed, but you can easily click on install and start using any of these models, right? Now remember, so you can go back and see I made a video previously on how stable diffusion works. Now the process on which the stable diffusion works is there is a text to image model. We input some text which is then encoded into a latent space which encodes all this text and then converts that text into an image in the latent space and displays that image to us, right? So it's a similar process in ComfyUI. We have a model which we first load, then we have these text blocks. Clip is basically the language model where we can input like a positive prompt and a negative prompt. Positive prompt is all the desirable characteristics you want in your image, and negative prompt tries to subtract that away. So the way stable diffusion works, as mentioned in my previous video, was that it's more like a sculpting process, right? So we have like an empty blank canvas and we try to which is very noisy. So we set like a noise initially in the image that we try to subtract away to get like a resulting image that matches closely to the prompt. This happens in the latent space. Now this entire text is encoded. Now this entire text is encoded in the latent space by using something called the K sampler, right? Now within the K sampler, you see all these different parameters. We see a seed parameter, which is the initial noise that we set within our latent space or image, right? and we can change this. So as we change the seed number, so images with the same seed number have the similar looking output, and you can always change the seed number. Another parameter is control after generate, which means the seed number continuously changes if it is random, or you can even fix it. You can increment it by like 1 or decrement it by 1, so you can increase or decrement it as well. And you can usually keep this fixed if you want the same kind of output image. Steps, so these are the number of denoising steps that your image goes through. The larger the denoising steps, the better, but 20 is a good number. CFG is the classifier free guidance scale, which I spoke about in my last video as well on stable diffusion, and this tries to match your generated image as closely as it can to the prompt. Then there's the sampler name. There are different kind of sampler names that try to speed up the math in the denoising process, right? So the most common one that we use is DPMM2M. This is a good one. And then we have a scheduler. Schedulers can, the most common scheduler I'd like to use is Keras. You can use Keras as a scheduler. And denoise is the amount of noise you want in it. Denoise is the amount of initial noise you want in the image, which I set to 1, which is that the entire image is noised. Now out of this K-sampler, we need to generate the latent image, right? So we have an entire node. So we have another block called the empty latent image, where we can set the size, where we can set the width and height of the image, and also the batch size, which is how many images that does this generation output. Like it could be like 3 images or 4 images. Right now we're just generating 1. Then we have something called VAE decode, which is called variational autoencoder, which encodes all that image information and then it decodes it into the output image that you can see. And another parameter that comes out of it is called the save image, right? Let's try and build this entire workflow from scratch. So I click on clear and it clears the entire workflow for us. Now all we need to do is right click, we click on add node, and we have to add a model, right? So we go to loaders and we load a checkpoint. Now the model I'm using right now is called stable cascade, but you can use any model you have. So you can even like go on to use SDXL turbo, for example. But let's try and see what the result is in stable cascade, and I'll try to compare different models for you. Now we have this that you can move around, this block that you can move around. We can click on clip, which is the language model, to get the prompts in, and we can, all we need to do is left click on this clip and drag a wire out of this node, and you click on, and all these different options come out, right? So there is something called clip text encode. You click on that, and this is where you can put in your prompt. So the prompt, let's say a beautiful yellow flower. Okay. And then we have something called the conditioning process, where the entire prompt is converted. So we need the K-sampler here, right? We need to drag this out, and then the K-sampler appears as well. Here's our K-sampler. The K-sampler can take a positive prompt as the input. Another node that connects is the model to the K-sampler. So these are the parameters that need to be filled up in the K-sampler. For a negative prompt, we can again drag out a clip text encode. So we can say no double images, or we can like mention like NSFW or something within the negative prompt, and we can connect this to the negative parameter. Now one more parameter is left in the latent image, so we can drag that out, and we have something called empty latent image, which is where the entire image generation process happens. We can set the width, height, and batch size here, and then we need the latent. Then we need to decode that image, right? So we need the variational autoencoder decode, which we get here. This connects to the VE in the load checkpoint. Done. Now, in the final image output process, we need to drag this out. The options that appear are save image or preview image. Let's just preview image. Here are your images. So now the way we run this entire workflow that we have built and these blocks that we assembled is we click on something called Q prompt. We click on Q prompt. All the green highlights that are appearing on top of each block means that those blocks are running. Here's the image that we've got. This is stable cascade. I'm not too happy. I don't see a flower here, right? Let's try and change our model up and see how this improves. If I change it to a model called Dream Shaper, let's see what the result is. It's Q prompt. Okay, now that's more like a sunflower. Yeah, so this is a better model. So you have to try different models that you can either download from Civit AI or Hugging Face and see which model gives you a good output. All your outputs appear right here on the bottom, so you can see all the results. But I like this output, right? Now if I want to save an image, I need to do something similar, right? I drag an option, I drag the image node out, and I can click on save image, and this will save the image to my machine, and this saves it to the folder that I have specified right here. So it saves it to the ComfyUI folder. If you want to add any models manually, all you need to do is open your files. Let's search for Pinocchio. Here we have Pinocchio. We can go to API. Let's go to ComfyUI.git. Here's the app, and these are the different folders, right? So whenever you download a model, you can place that model in the models folder. So these are the different models I have right now. So this was your first ComfyUI workflow. I tried to keep it very basic for you, and you should try this out yourself. If you have any doubts, you can comment below, and I'll build upon these workflows in my future videos. So hope this was good to start off. See you in the next video. Bye.